Dear colleagues, my name is Oleg Bodrov. I am physicist, ecologist, and peace movement activist from the south coast of the Gulf of Finland. It is eastern part of the Baltic Sea region, close to St. Petersburg. I am a chairman of the Public Council of the south coast of the Gulf of Finland. I worked in the Russian nuclear industry for the 17 years, but left it after the Chernobyl disaster. For the past 30 years, I have been working on issues on environmental protection, nuclear safety, and the prohibition of the nuclear weapons. I live on the border of the confrontation between NATO and Russia on the south coast of the Gulf of Finland. And so my point, which I will present just now, will be based on my personal experience and activities last years. First of all, I'd like to say something about the status of the Russian nuclear industry in context of the nuclear weapons and the export of the civil nuclear technologies before the NPT review conference. First of all, Russia, according to the official doctrine, Russia could be the first to use nuclear weapons. It is a very important message. Another one, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation declared that prohibition of the nuclear weapons is contrary to our national interest. And the President of the Russian Federation demonstrated the psychological readiness to use nuclear weapons. He personally launched 4 transcontinental missiles from the submarine, air, and ground-based facilities. And the last but not least, the Russian state corporation, Rosatom, have agreement to build 36 nuclear power plants outside of the Russia in different countries. And consumers of this nuclear electricity from the Russian nuclear power plants outside of the Russia may be investors of the Russian military programs. So the top level of the Russian politicians are already ready to use nuclear weapons and develop the nuclear infrastructure outside of the Russia, which is possible to support Russian military programs. It is number one of my points, my message to my colleagues. Now the one, some lessons after the pandemic COVID-19. All countries, including nuclear weapons countries, were powerless against the new virus. COVID-19 stimulated the development of the economical crisis, and the leaders of the nuclear countries use these countries to find enemies outside of the country. So, thus, instead of the joint forces against the virus, the politicians' confrontation between countries deepness. And what can we do? I mean, our international peace movement. First of all, I'd like to say that we have sick of our planet, and we have no planet B to use for this. So now we need not only protect our planet from the nuclear weapons, but also to reduce greenhouse emissions, to stop civil nuclear expansion, which is part of the military nuclear industry. We need to provide safety decommissioning of the more than 400 nuclear power plants in our planet, and we need to promote sustainable development of our countries. What reasonable to do in this case? I think, first of all, we need to develop our cooperation with our colleagues from non-governmental organizations working in the field of protection of the traditional lifestyle of the indigenous people, NGO which is act against the climate changes, and NGO which is act against the export of the nuclear power plants. So reasonable, I think, to stimulate transboundary cooperation between non-governmental organizations, municipal and regional authorities close to the border between NATO and not NATO countries. And I think the politicians of the NATO and Russia are trying to make us enemies 75 years after the Second World War. And I think reason to say, let's hold our hands, friends in Russia, Europe, China, and USA. We are friends, but not enemies. Thank you.